Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Sheila Poyner, and I work for Different Strokes, and I'm also a stroke survivor, like probably most of you. And welcome to the first webinar in our 2024 series. If you've joined us in previous years, it's good to see you again. If this is your first webinar, it's great to have you with us, so thank you. So we'll be running these webinars every kind of month, so please keep an eye on our website and our social media for details of future sessions. And I'll tell you at the end of the session today what our next one is going to be. But please, if you've got any topics that you want us to cover, please email in and let us know what these are. Our email address will appear in the chat function in a little while. Today we are joined by Debby Hulmes, who's representing Citizens Advice Bureau. Debbie will run through a general overview of the different benefits you may be able to claim if you're a stroke survivor or caring for somebody, and that includes family members, so spouses, partners, etc. Citizens Advice is brilliant. We always signpost people there because they're known for providing free, impartial and confidential advice to individuals right across the UK. We'd like to say that this session is being recorded today, but the only faces that will be on screen will be myself and Debbie. And the recording will be available in the very near future. I can't put a date on it, but it'll be ready in the very near future. There's a chat function. If you look down the bottom of your screen, there's a chat function. Please use this to say hello to one another. Some of you have been doing that already, and to post any general comments in there. If you have any burning questions that you'd like Debbie to try and answer today, please put them in the Q&A function. Please don't put the questions in the chat function because they will get swallowed up and we might miss them. We'll try and answer as many questions as we can today, but if we don't manage to get round to them all, please just contact your local Citizens Advice Bureau. I'll put up the link to their website in the chat while Debbie's talking as well. And on that website, you can put in where you live and see if you've got a local office. If not, there's a general number on there. Just sit back and enjoy Debbie's whiz through the benefits. I'm looking forward to it. It's a topic that we're always asked about and we're always learning more and more. So now I'd like to hand over to Debbie. Welcome.
Hi. Hi, good morning, everyone. So we are going to be looking at the benefits for England. So if you live outside of England, the benefits may be slightly different. So you might need to take a second look at that with your local Citizens Advice. Just a caveat, we do welcome questions at the end of this, but we're not going to be able to answer any of your specific questions, perhaps relating directly to you, because benefits are so individualized. It would be really difficult for me to sort of say, this is what your benefit entitlement will be without taking real specific information from you. So this is just a run through. Hopefully it sets you on the right path and will hopefully answer some of your questions as to your first steps if you're new to the whole benefit system. So I'm going to share my screen so that you're not just listening to me, and hopefully these will then help. Okay, I think Sheila said I work for Citizens Advice at Milton Keynes, and so obviously everything I say is going to be related to the benefit system in England. So when you're looking at working age benefits, that's what we said that we would look at today. So this is benefits for people aged between 18 and state retirement pension age. And these benefits will fall into three main categories. So contribution-based benefits, so these are benefits which you're entitled to because you have paid the relevant national insurance contributions. The one we're looking at specifically in relation to people who are not well enough to work would be new style employment and support allowance. Then there's disability benefits, benefits specifically related to people who have a disability, and therefore the government recognise that perhaps life is a little bit more expensive for you, and that's why they pay this additional benefit. And again, for working age people, that would be the personal independence payment. And then there are means tested benefits. So, and again, for working age people, this will be universal credit. And we're going to go through these in sort of step by step. I'm not going to look at things like housing a benefit, income-based employment and support allowance, what we call as legacy benefits, because you can't make a claim for them now. No one can make a new claim for them. If you're already getting those benefits, then you need to seek advice, but you will be getting a letter either this year or next year inviting you to go back onto or to claim universal credit or on one of the other means tested benefits. So I'm not going to look at legacy benefits today. So let's start with new style employment and support allowance. So this is a benefit for people who are unable to work. So they've got limited capability to work due to health issues. You need to be aged over 16 and in under state pension age. You need to live in Great Britain. You can't be entitled to statutory sick pay. So if you're getting statutory sick pay at the moment, that you need to wait for that to run out, normally after 6 months. And at that point, you can then claim new style employment and support allowance. You can't be engaged in any work unless it's permitted work. There are rules around permitted work. You must work for less than 16 hours a week. You must earn less than £183.50 per week. And you should have informed the DWP of the work that you are doing. And then this is the main criteria, really, that you have to have paid or be treated as being paid at least 26 weeks national insurance contributions on earnings of at least £123 per week in one of the last 2 complete tax years before the year you're claiming ESA. Really complicated, but to put it in a nutshell, if you have worked for 2 out of the last 3 years and you have paid national insurance or you have earned at least £123 per week, so you're treated as having paid national insurance, you should be able to claim new style employment and support allowance. If you're not sure, claim. They'll tell you if you haven't paid enough national insurance contributions, and you can always go back to challenge that if you don't agree. So it's paid at £90.50 per week for over 25, £71.70 per week for under 25s. Because it's a contribution-based benefit, any savings or income of anyone else in your household will not affect how much you receive. Any savings you have won't affect how much you receive. The only thing that can impact how much you receive is if you have any earnings now or if you have an occupational pension. But otherwise you should be receiving £90.50 per week if you're over 25, £71.70 per week if you're under 25. So how to apply? It's all online now. Everything's online now. So they much prefer you to do it online. There's a link there, or you can do it by phone. I have included the Citizens Advice link there because that gives you a lot more information about how to apply. How long can you receive New Style ESA? Well, you'll initially be paid that assessment rate, that £90.70 per week if you're over 25. So that's when you make the claim. You'll then be sent a form to fill in. It's not a very pleasant form. It's about 40 pages long. I would suggest you get help to fill it in if you can. Once you sent the form in, they will then invite you for a medical. The medical can either be online, over the phone, or in person. And following that, they will make a decision. They will either say you're not entitled at all, in which case your ESA is going to stop, or they will place you in the work-related activity group. Doesn't give you any extra money. You stick at the £90.50 per week, and it only lasts for 365 days. If you're still unable to work at the end of those 365 days, you're going to have to look for another benefit. Or alternatively, they'll place you in the support group, and then they will give you an additional £47.70 per week in addition to the £90.50 they're already paying you, and that will continue for as long as you meet the conditions of being placed in the support group. So filling out the form, that's always the difficult bit. As I say, do see if you can get help to do that. It's really helpful if you can get somebody who can be objective. Your new normal may mean that you forget to put things on the form. The magic phrase for filling out benefit forms or disability benefit forms is always, what are you like for the majority of the time? Okay, so that's what you need to be thinking about. It may be worth you, as soon as you phone to make the claim, start keeping a diary so that you can know what you're like for the majority of the time. So that's ESA, contribution-based benefit. Okay, personal independence payment. So this is the disability benefit. Okay, so you need to be aged between 16 and state pension age. If you're in receipt of PIP and you reach state pension age, you continue to receive personal independence payment. Okay, you don't have to move on to attendance allowance, which is the disability benefit for over pension age people. Just a little caveat on that. If, for example, you are now under state retirement pension age and they give you standard rate for daily living and standard rate for mobility, you then hit state pension age and you think, oh, my mobility is a lot worse, I think I might need a little bit of extra help under my PIP. They will not pay you any extra for mobility because you are now over state retirement age. Okay, so for personal independence payment, you can't be subject to immigration control. You must meet the residence conditions. So that's been in the country in Great Britain for 2 out of the last 3 years. You have to have met the disability conditions for the daily living component or the mobility component or both. So you can be paid one or other of these elements. You don't have to satisfy both. And we're going to go into those in a little more detail. And you have to have met those disability conditions for the past 3 months, and your health conditions be likely to continue to affect you for the next 9 months. And I appreciate this is really difficult for survivors of strokes, when you probably need the vast majority of help is in that first 3 months, but you're not going to be able to apply for PIP for those first 3 months, and you can't apply whilst you're in hospital either. So the daily living component, these are the things they're going to be looking at. So preparing food, taking nutrition, managing therapy, washing and bathing, managing toilet and needs, dressing and undressing, communicating verbally, reading, understanding signs, symbols and words, engaging with people face to face, making budgeting decisions. Each of these elements has a point system attached to them. Between 2 and 8 points are attached to that. What you need to get is 8 points across the board. So you could get 2 points for preparing food, 2 points for bathing, bathing and washing, 2 points for dressing and undressing, and say 2 points for engaging with people face to face. There's your 8 points. You've got your standard rate for daily living. If you get 12 points, you're going to be awarded an enhanced rate. Again, exactly the same as with ESA. What you're looking at is, what am I like for the majority of the time? Keep a diary, but get people who know you well to help you fill the form in, or come and get somebody objective like Citizens Advice who can sit down with you, ask you the probing questions that perhaps you haven't thought of. So the mobility component works on the same principle as the daily living element, in the sense that you need to have 8 points for standard rate, 12 points for enhanced rate, but there's only 2 components: so planning and following journeys or moving around. And this can include prompting. Should have said that on the daily living one as well. It can include if you need prompting to remember to take your medication, prompting to have a wash, prompting to get dressed. All of that counts and can attribute points. So these are the daily, so these are the PIP rates. So just let you read through those. So obviously enhanced rate substantially more than the standard rate. So how do you apply? The first thing you need to do is to contact the DWP. They will fill in a PIP1 form for you over the phone. We always recommend that people do this over the phone, because if you phone them to start the initial claim, any claim that you may subsequently be awarded will be backdated to the date you made the phone call. They will then send you out a PIP2 form. Okay, this is a how the disability affects you form. It's like a book. It's about 40 pages long. Again, get help if you need it. There is information on our website, and I've put the site there about how to fill it in, what sort of medical evidence you should be looking for. And then once they've got that back, they will then invite you to a medical assessment. Again, could be over the phone, could be a video, could be in person. What I would say in terms of the disability form, you'll normally be given about a month to return this. Bearing in mind, sometimes, you know, the letter's dated and then for some reason it seems to sit somewhere in the DWP before it reaches you. You may have lost a week or two before you've received it. And then you phone your local Citizens Advice. And if it's anything like Milton Keynes, we're really, really stretched and we'll say, don't have any appointments for 3 weeks. Don't worry about that. You just contact the DWP, tell them you've needed help to fill in the form and ask them to extend the deadline. They will still backdate the claim to the date that you made the initial phone call to start the claim, so you won't lose any money. If you're awarded PIP, have a quick look to see what else you can get because you're now in receipt of PIP. Okay, so the disabled person's rail card, a blue badge, a vehicle tax discount of 50% if you get standard rate mobility, or 100% if you get the enhanced rate mobility. Lots of people don't know about that. You may qualify for free local bus travel. Have a look on your local council. And you may be able to use the Motability scheme, which is to get a car. So you don't get paid your mobility element under your PIP, but you might be able to get a car instead. You need to look at the Motability scheme to see if that's something that you would like to do. And you may get additional premiums on some of your other benefits. So you must inform other people. So if you're getting universal credit, if you're getting council tax reduction, inform them that you've now been awarded PIP, because that may entitle you some additional elements on some of those other benefits. So universal credit. So this is means tested. So PIP, you can be a millionaire, you can be working, you can still get PIP. Yeah, ESA, new style of ESA, you can get if you've made the right contributions. Universal credit is means tested. It does have additional components. So this is the benefit you claim because you need help to pay the rent, because you've got children and you need additional money to help for them. Limited capability for work if you're not entitled to new style ESA. The carers element may be payable to you. This is all under universal credit. It's really difficult for me to go in any great detail about universal credit because it changes depending on your circumstances. What your circumstances are will determine what your universal credit claim will be. What I can tell you is your savings and your partner's income and savings will be taken into account. If you're cohabiting with someone, you're married to somebody, you're living together, then their income will be taken into account too, and you will need to make a joint claim with your partner. If you've got non-dependent adults living in the property with you, so it could be elderly relatives, it could be your adult children, then that may have an impact on how much money you get towards your rent, but it shouldn't affect the other elements on your universal credit. So who can claim universal credit? You need to be aged over 18 and under state retirement pension age. If you're in a couple and one of you is over state retirement pension age and one of you is under state retirement pension age, then you would be eligible to claim universal credit. You can't be in receipt of education, so you can't be a student. You have to satisfy the habitual residence and right to reside tests. Not subject to immigration control. You have to have accepted a claimant commitment. Now, this is an agreement between you and your work coach, you and the job centre, as to what they expect you to do. Do not sign a claimant commitment that you know you will not be able to fulfil. So if you know that you've got health issues, you need to tell them about that. You need to ensure that's in the claimant commitment so that you can fulfil any obligations which are written in there. If you don't fulfil a claimant commitment that you have agreed to, then they can sanction your benefit, which means that they can make a deduction from your benefits. And then satisfy the financial conditions. So again, they've got to look at your income. Well, I can't give you a specific figure on your income because again, it depends who else is in the property with you, in the household with you. But if you've got savings or capital of less than you have to have savings and capitals of less than £16,000. If you've got capital or savings of more than £16,000, you can't apply now. You can apply as soon as your income, your capital and savings dip below £16,000. What they may though do is look and see what you spent that money on. If they think you've given that money away in order that you can now claim benefits, then they will say you've deprived yourself of that capital in order to claim benefits, and they will treat you as if you've still got it. So just be aware of that. You'll need to kind of justify what you spent that money on. Obviously, if you spent that money on paying your rent because you weren't eligible to universal credit, that's an absolutely valid expense. Just want to mention specifically limited capability for work. So this is one element under universal credit because it is applicable to people who are unable to work due to ill health. So if you don't satisfy those national insurance contributions to be able to apply for new style ESA, then you will need to make a claim for limited capability for work under your universal credit claim. You will need to have a fit note from your GP or the pharmacist or nurse or whoever's providing you with fit notes saying that you are unable to work. Once you've uploaded a number of probably 2 or 3 fit notes onto your universal credit claim, you will then have to complete a form. Again, it's a 40-page form. So if you need help with it, ask, and you will then be asked to attend a medical. And then following the medical, again, you'll either be told, no, we think you're fit for work, go and find a job, or they'll be saying, no, you've got limited capability for work, we're not going to give you any extra money. You might be asked to attend some courses, but no, we're not actually asking you to look for work now. Or you'll be placed in the limited capability for work and work-related activity group. That's a bit of a mouthful. There you're not asked to look for work, and they will give you an additional £416.19 a month under your universal credit claim. So how do you apply for universal credit? Okay, again, online, that's how I like you to do it. If you're unable to, if you're unsure about claiming online, if you're not very good with technology, don't claim online, because once you claim online, they will set up an online journal for you, and everything will be communicated through this online journal. If you don't think you'll be able to manage that, then it's best not to have the online journal, because you might be asked to do things, you miss it because you're not technically savvy enough, and then you could be sanctioned because you haven't done what you've been told to do. So if you're unsure at all, then make a phone claim. Call them, say, I can't cope with the technology, I'd like to have an over the phone claim, and then they would have to find other ways to contact you. We always recommend people go to our Citizens Advice Help to Claim line. If you've called this line, our advisors will first of all do a full benefit check with you. They will tell you what sort of universal credit what elements you should be getting. They'll help you fill out the application form. If you need to make a telephone claim, they can support you in making that, because sometimes when you phone to say, I want to make a telephone claim, the DWP kind of push you off a little bit. They can help you prepare for your first job centre appointment, and they can check your first payment is correct. Their telephone number is there. I've put links to their website, which also gives other ways that you can contact them. They've got a chat facility as well. So I'd highly recommend you contact them if you've got any questions about universal credit and you haven't yet made a claim, or you have made a claim and you haven't yet had your first payment. They'll be the easiest people for you to get hold of. Carers allowance. So carers allowance obviously is for anybody who cares for somebody who has to be in receipt of one of these disability benefits. So if you care for somebody but haven't yet claimed this benefit, they need to claim that benefit first. So PIP if you're in working age, DLA if you're under 16, attendance allowance if you're overstayed retirement pension age. You must be engaged and regularly engaged in caring for somebody for 35 hours a week. You mustn't earn more than £151 per week. You can't be in full-time education, can't be subject to immigration control. You must satisfy the residence conditions. Okay. It's paid at £81.90 per week. You can't get that if you're also in receipt of state retirement pension. And I would always say seek advice before claiming, because it can impact others' benefits, including the benefits of the person you're caring for. So there is a site there which talks about the impact that carers allowance can have on your other benefits. Worth reading through. If you've got any questions, contact Citizens Advice. We'll be able to talk you through what the impact may have upon you or the person you're caring for. This is how you apply for it. Of all benefit forms, carers allowance is probably the most simple. But again, if you do need help for it, contact your local Citizens Advice. Okay, so all of the above benefits are all managed by the DWP. Now, it all sounds quite simple when we rattle through it. This is how you claim. You're going to have a little chat with somebody. They're going to give you the benefit. Unfortunately, you don't have to Google very far to realise that that actually isn't the case. So if you get a decision and you're not happy with it, so either, for example, I applied for New Style ESA and they turned me down, I applied for PIP, they have given me payments, but I don't think they paid me at the right rate, then you need to kick it off by asking for a mandatory reconsideration. This is essentially just a review of asking for a review of the decision that's been made. you need to request that review within 1 month of the date on the decision letter that you have received. You can do it after 1 month. There's an absolute time deadline of 13 months from the date of the decision, but you're going to have to argue that you had good reason of why you didn't do it within the first month. So you're looking at, I was hospitalised, I had bereavement in the family. It has to be something major, not, oh, I didn't realise I could do that. Okay. Mandatory reconsideration doesn't change a vast amount of decisions. We would say, I think I looked it up on the stats, 26% of decisions are changed in the claimant's favour at the mandatory reconsideration stage. Most citizens' advice, like Milton Keynes, we're really stretched, and therefore it is unlikely we will help you with a mandatory reconsideration because we don't have the personnel and it's unlikely to succeed. So what we would normally say to you is, you make the mandatory reconsideration, here's the information of how to do it, come back to it if the mandatory reconsideration decision doesn't change what decision was made, or you're still not happy with the decision that was made. So once you've got the decision letter from the mandatory reconsideration, you're still not happy with it, you've got another month to submit it to an independent tribunal. 76% of claimants who appeal to the independent tribunal are successful. So with the question of, should I appeal? Yes, always. We always say to people, when you make an application for PIP, when you make an application for New Style ESA, don't be put off when they give you 0 points. Mandatory reconsideration and appeal. And again, you do have this month. There is an outside deadline of 13 months, but again, you need a good reason as to why you didn't do it within that first month. Okay. We will help you fill in the appeal form. What happens is it's very easy, it's a very simple appeal form, which is submitted off to the tribunal. Once the tribunal will receive that appeal application, they will contact the DWP and ask them to send them a copy of all the papers they hold on you. The DWP will send it, and it is about 1 inch thick. They will send a copy to the tribunal, and they will also send a copy to you. You need to go through that. You will probably find a number of discrepancies where the assessor says one thing on one page and 6 pages later says something else. You need to highlight this. It is unlikely that you will find somebody in the advice sector who will go with you to a tribunal. However, we will help you with what we call a written submission. So that is us helping you to go through the paperwork, putting something together which you can submit to the tribunal prior to the hearing so that you know your voice has been heard, putting everything together as to why you think the DWP decision is wrong. And you can explicitly talk about all those elements in the bundle of papers which you don't think are correct. Okay, so council tax reduction, I'm just really briefly going to mention this just because it kind of gets missed off a lot, but do apply if you've had a significant reduction in your income, whether it's due to ill health or anything, you may well be entitled to council tax reduction. That is an application through your local council. I'm not going to go into it in any more detail than that, other than just to raise it so it's not forgotten about, because every council sets their own rules. So how you apply, who is eligible, is going to be set by your local council. So contact your local council. It's normally an online form, but if you're not sure, your local citizens advice should be able to help you. Okay, how to get help. So as I said, I'm not going to be able to answer any of your specific questions about, about your particular circumstance. The first thing I would say is look at the benefit calculators online. So we mention them on our website. The gov.uk site also has mention of which benefit calculators are available. It's a really good start. The information you input into the calculators doesn't go anywhere. This is literally for your information only, but it will give you a good start as to where you need to be. If you don't find that helpful, you're struggling with that a little bit, then have a look on our website. You may well find the information you're looking for there. Otherwise, your local citizens advice. So on the same page, the opening page, right on the bottom right-hand corner, is find your local citizens advice, and that will, you put your postcode in there. It should take you to your local citizens advice page. What I would say is, if there is an option on your local citizens advice to contact them in any way other than the national line, take it. So I know Citizens Advice, we are part of the national line. There's a long wait. There are an awful lot of people seeking for help, and I'm not going to apologise for being busy, but there can be a very long wait on the phone. At Milton Keynes, we also have a digital facility where you can come on kind of like a Zoom Connect, only available available for people who live in Milton Keynes. We also have a text number and we also have an email number. Those are the easiest ways to contact us. Contact us in those ways, we will contact you back. And if your local citizens advice has similar facilities to those, you might find it less frustrating than waiting on the end of the phone. Okay, so then back to you, I think, Sheila.
Okay, are you ready for this? This is question and answer time. Okay, some of these questions came in previously, so Debbie's been able to see them and hopefully form an answer. And then some of you have posed questions today, which we'll go through if we have time as well. Again, just to reiterate, if we don't get time to answer your question or we don't answer it in enough depth because of the personal circumstances and everything, please do contact your local Citizens Advice Bureau. Right, here we go, Debbie. My brother lived by himself in a house he owned with a mortgage before he had his stroke 2 months ago. He has some savings, but they're being eaten into fast. He's currently in hospital and expected to remain there for another 6 months. Is he expected to use all of his savings before he is eligible? I can't get my words out today. Eligible to apply for benefits. He isn't getting any sick pay because he's self-employed.
Okay, so this is a really difficult situation, but the answer is yes, he is entitled to benefits. Okay, again, I can't really go into the specifics because we would need to know all of the background, but based on that very brief outline, you would need to be looking at new style ESA. Okay, if he's paid the right national insurance contributions, it depends what he's paid as a self-employed person. If he's not entitled to new style employment support allowance, then he should be claiming universal credit. And I would strongly advise him, even if he's in hospital, call the Help to Claim line and they will go through a benefit check with him.
Lovely, thank you. The next one, we are struggling to get help as they all seem to be means tested other than PIP. My son lives with me. He couldn't cope alone after his stroke, but they assess my income, which precludes him from getting any help.
Okay, so again on this one, I just want to put a few caveats because I don't know all the information. I'm assuming, as I answer this question, that your son is aged over 18. Okay, so the first thing we need to look at is what was he doing for the last 3 years? Has he been working? If he was working prior to having the stroke, he may be entitled to New Style or ESA. If not, he should be entitled to means tested universal credit. Your income as his mother shouldn't be taken into account. Okay. Now it may be that if he's an adult son living back at home with mum, sorry, it could be mum, dad, parents. If he's living back home, he probably won't get any help in paying things like contribution towards rents, okay, because they won't pay housing elements if you're living with close relatives. But he should still be getting, for example, limited capability work and a standard allowance under universal credit. So again, I'd be saying to your son, call the Help to Claim line, let them do a full benefit check because he should be entitled to something.
Fantastic, thank you. Next one, am I entitled to any benefits since my stroke? I'm back in full-time employment, but since my stroke, I do struggle with certain things which affect my daily work and home life.
Okay, so again, really difficult because I don't know all the circumstances and I don't know who you're living with, because who you live with is going to have an impact upon universal credit. So universal credit is worth looking into. If you've got children, you've got rents to pay, things like that, it's worth looking into. If you're earning too much or you've got too many savings for universal credit, then definitely PIP. Okay, so if you're still being affected, bearing in mind PIP is about being affected in your home life as opposed to your working life. You know, we looked at those categories, you know, help to wash and dress, help to prepare meals, things like that. Those are the elements. So if you're working, they may raise questions, but there is no, you can definitely apply for PIP if you are working.
Okay. I live with 2 other adults in the house. My partner who works full-time and his 70-year-old mum who is on PIP and retirement benefits. The house is council owned. I struggle as it seems her benefits would affect what I can apply for. he's talking about his mum there, and my partner's income. My finances are my own, always have been. How should they affect me?
Okay, this is quite a difficult one. So as I said in the presentation, if you're living as a couple, then it is a joint claim for any income or means tested benefits. Okay, so universal credit, if that's what you want to claim, they will be looking at what does your partner claim, and that can have an impact upon that benefit. However, your mum's benefits shouldn't have any impact upon you. Okay. Sometimes, so under universal credit, if I've got a non-dependent, so your mum, living with you, that can have an impact upon what housing element you get. However, that's not the case if the person the non-dependent is in receipt of certain benefits, or if you are in receipt of PIP. So if I'm in receipt of PIP, any non-dependents living with me don't have any impact upon the housing element of my universal credit. So I don't know who's told you that your mum's income is going to have an effect. You need to seek advice, and again, the help to claim line will be able to support you with that.
Okay, that's really helpful. Does volunteering affect limited capacity for work and work-related activity payments?
Okay, so no, it shouldn't. You should be able to volunteer as much as you like. We normally recommend you tell the DWP before you start. Just one little caveat on that. If you are volunteering full time, so you're doing something every day of the week, I think that's going to raise alarm bells within the DWP, and it may mean that they will want to reassess your limited capability for work and work-related activities, because I think they'll be saying, if you can volunteer full-time, you could probably work full-time. So just a caveat, watch how much you're volunteering. If you've been told you've got limited capability for work and work-related activity, that's quite a high group that you're in. You don't want to jeopardize that, so just be careful.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Concerns re government proposals to make changes to PIP. Are you able to give any clarification about this? Now, we've had a few questions come in today about the whole PIP review and everything. And I'd just like to say, and I think Debbie will back me up, because it's a review, there's no decisions being made yet, so nobody can give any clarification on it. However, if you would like your say, you can go onto the government website, gov.co.uk or gov.uk, and find the consultation and fill it out yourself. But Different Strokes will be looking at this and putting out our take on it as well. So over to you again, Debbie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have very much to add to that. As you say, it's a proposal, and I've heard 2 or 3 different proposals, so it's really difficult for me to have any clarity. And I think, before we all start getting anxious about this, it is a proposal, and I can probably, say Citizens Advice. We have 2 elements. One part of our role is to help individual people, and another element is to have an impact, to have a say in things which are going on in government. And so undoubtedly, Citizens Advice will be adding their little tuppenny's penny's worth along with Different Strokes.
Okay. This is, I'm not really asking Debbie this question, because it says, are all services available in all areas? We don't know what specific services you mean, but again, like Debbie said, Citizens Advice, the advice you get from them may be different if you live in Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, because she's talked about England today. It could apply to other services as well. So if you want to be more specific on that one, please email us and we'll try our best to signpost you to whoever. So for Debbie, this is your next one. I've had a stroke recently and have not been able to work for over 5 months now. I've recently made a PIP application over a month ago and haven't heard back yet about the decision. How do I find out the outcome of my application, and is there any funding I could possibly apply for?
Yeah, this is a really difficult one, and yeah, it's frustrating. I get your frustration, because you've had to wait 3 months when you desperately needed that money, undoubtedly, before you could actually make an application, and now 5 months you're still waiting. PIP claims take between 6 to 8 months to be determined. Okay, so there's an awful long wait on them. The good news is, when you're awarded it, you're going to get a nice lump sum back payment, but that doesn't help you now. Unfortunately, I don't know of any, there is no grant which is going to replace PIP, because PIP is the benefit. I don't know what you specifically need the money for. If it's in case of adaptations, for example, then it might be worth looking at disability grants at your local council. If it's for sort of meeting day-to-day costs, then the household support fund is still running in many councils, or there's the local welfare provision. It's called the local welfare provision in Milton Keynes. I think they have different names in different councils, but there are fundings within the local council which may be able to assist. The other place I would go to is Turn to Us. So Turn to Us is a website. There are a number of grants on the Turn to Us website. It's worth having a look on there.
Thank you. These are a few that have come in today. We won't have time for them all. So again, please do get in touch with Citizens Advice if we haven't answered your question, or we could be here for a long time today. The next one: can a family friend or a family member apply for review of PIP of someone who has COPD but has also had a stroke and is still in hospital? Will the PIP be backdated, and does the stroke survivor need to give their permission?
So normally the stroke survivor would need to give permission. And it's certainly something worth thinking about. There's something called an appointeeship. You can get an appointeeship with the DWP, which will enable you to be the, it's kind of like a power of attorney, but just for benefits. Okay, so it's under the DWP. If you look at it, gov.uk appointeeship, and then somebody else can speak on behalf of the claimant, and all the paperwork will go to the appointee. So that's probably worth thinking about if somebody, you know, perhaps is unable to communicate over the telephone or whatever else now. That's definitely worth looking at. In terms of can you ask for the review? Yeah, just bear in mind that PIP is normally only paid for about 28 days when somebody's in hospital. So it may be stopped whilst they're in hospital, but you can tell the DWP of the change of circumstance. If you tell them the change of circumstance, you will be sent a new form and they will re-look at the whole claim.
Brilliant. The next question is tips for PIP appeal: denied twice, have not got date working to pay mortgage. Again, because of the, you know, your own personal circumstances and all the ins and outs, you would need to ring and speak to someone in Citizens Advice for them to help you with that one. But definitely do appeal would be the advice we'd all give. That's something that comes up in our Facebook group quite often, and everyone's like, don't just take it, appeal, don't take it. How does ESA affect directors of their own company and their ability or not to work?
Okay, I think you're probably talking about sort of this permitted work. It's really complicated, and with directors it's even more complicated, so I don't even want to attempt to answer that now. I think you need to go to speak to your local Citizens Advice.
Okay, thank you. I'm just looking through these. I'm still confused about how ESA and Universal Credit interact with one another. The ESA groups and Universal Credit limited capability for work groups sound exactly the same. What's the difference, and who should be applying for which ones?
Okay, it is confusing, and pretty much they are the same. Okay, so the new style ESA is for people who have paid the correct national insurance stamps over the last 2 years. Okay, so if you have paid national insurance, you will be expected to claim new style ESA. You can apply for universal credit, which goes alongside your new style ESA claim. So if I'm not working, I'm renting a property, then I still need help to pay my rent, even though I've been working for the last 2 years. I've now had a stroke, I can't work, so I'm now going to claim new style ESA based on my contributions, but I'm going to also claim universal credit alongside that. So that's going to help me pay the rent, pay for my children, perhaps have a carer's element in there, all that additional stuff. Okay. Anything I get under ESA will then be deducted from my universal credit. If you haven't paid any insurance, or you haven't paid enough national insurance over the last 2 years, then you're just going to apply for universal credit, and it's going to be limited capability for work because you haven't got enough stamps to pay for to claim new style ESA. If that helps.
Lovely, thank you. You're a mine of information. Right, next one. Hopefully this is easy to answer. I was always under the impression that carer's allowance couldn't be claimed if you were over state pension age.
That is correct. Well, okay, if you carer's allowance is so carer's allowance is, I think, £81 odd a week. State retirement pension is more than that. Under the rules, it says that you can make a claim for carer's allowance and state retirement pension, but they will only pay one of them. So they're going to pay whichever pays the more. So most people's state retirement pension is more than the carer's allowance, so therefore that's what you get. What you can do is you can still make a claim for carer's allowance, and you can get what's called carer's credit. And that can then entitle you to additional premiums under things like housing benefit or council tax reduction. Okay, if you're not sure, again, it is complicated. Gov.uk under carers credits, or go to your local citizens advice.
Right, next one. What advice would you give a couple who want to apply for universal credit, but one of them is unable to apply for benefits because of immigration or are in full-time education? Do you still apply as a couple? Would you be better doing a telephone claim?
Okay, so let's just deal with the telephone claim bit. First of all, the DWP don't like telephone claims. They want everybody to have online claims. So the telephone claim bit is absolutely just because you cannot deal with technology. It has nothing to do with any complexity of your case. In terms of students, so students are really complicated. So if you've got a part of the couple is a student, you're going to need to take advice on that. Students' income will include any student loan that they're entitled to. So and obviously that's then going to have an impact on the joint income. So just be careful with that. You definitely need to seek advice if one's a student. In terms of immigration, if one of the couple has no recourse to public funds, they are not entitled to universal credit. What you have to do is you make a single claim, but you have to make the DWP aware that you are part of a couple with someone who has no recourse to public funds, and any income that that person has, so if that person with no recourse to public funds, for example, is working, any of their income will be taken into account on your universal credit claim. Again, speak to universal credit, speak to our help to claim line. They will go through it with you specifically so that they can talk figures with you, which is, I think, easier for people to grasp hold of.
And how long do you need to have lived in the UK to claim PIP, AA, universal credits? I think.
Oh, okay.
Everything.
I think it's different. I can't remember off the top of my head. Well, for PIP, it's definitely you've got to have lived in the UK for 2 out of the last 3 years. For universal credit, the rules are different because it's all about habitual residence tests, which are different again. So if you have been out of the country, again, your situation's a little bit more complicated. Seek advice.
Okay. And the last 2 questions, regarding new style ESA, what happens if your employer is currently paying your full salary sick pay, but this is time limited and you don't know whether you're able to go back to work? What happens if you resign or have been employed by the company for under 2 years and they terminate your contract?
Okay, so let's start off with if you're getting sick pay, then you're not entitled to new style ESA. You've got to wait for that sick pay to run out. Okay, so in terms of what happens if you resign, our advice is always don't resign. Okay, it can have an impact upon, for example, universal credit, because they might sanction you by saying, well, you didn't need to leave that job. Okay, so wait for your employer to dismiss you on ill health grounds and make sure that they follow the procedure correctly in doing that. Again, seek advice before you do anything. Okay, and what I would suggest you do is all citizens advice, we call them in the trade what if calculations. So what we can do is, let's look at your situation now while you're getting full contractual sick pay. Let's look and see what benefits you're entitled to now, and let's see what will happen if you resign, or if you were dismissed because of it on ill health grounds. Let's then have a look and see what will happen with your benefits, so that you can make a really informed decision before you do anything.
Lovely, thank you. And the last one, I have a patient who's 62 years old, has worked all his life. Now sick pay has come to an end at 6 months. Wife is struggling mentally and she claims universal credit as unwell. He is unable to apply for PIP and she can't cope with form filling, etc. They've got no family. They have a mortgage, currently relying on friends to pay it, have referred to welfare, rights, citizens advice, carer centre for wife, etc., but would benefit from one-to-one support with the PIP form, as he's unable to cope with the form himself as his wife is, and navigating the system. Who would be best to help?
Okay, so I mean, you say it's a patient, so I don't know what your relationship is with this person. We have quite a good relationship with social prescribers, and so they will refer a person into us, and then we will then arrange an appointment. Again, it's really difficult because it's probably at Citizens Advice, our appointments are our most precious resource, and so we have to be really careful who we give them out to. So for us to give an appointment to somebody, to pick up a phone, to sit on the phone for ages, to speak to the PIP, just to make that initial claim, it's really difficult for us to make that judgment call. So we would be saying, well, could the social prescriber do that just to get that claim in place? Once the claim's in place, as soon as the form hits the doormat, again, refer them over to Citizens Advice saying they've got the form, it needs to be back in this date. The Citizens Advice will give them an appointment to fill it in. Once they get as I said in my presentation, normally we don't give appointments for mandatory reconsiderations because it's a bit of a wasted appointment. It's probably not going to change anything. However, if we know somebody who has vulnerabilities, we will give them an appointment to help them with the mandatory reconsideration. So literally, it's just a case of somebody picking up the post, contacting Citizens Advice when various things have come through, and we will help them.
Lovely, thank you. Gosh, I don't think we were going to get through all those questions, but you voiced through them. That is lovely. And thank you so much for your help today, Debbie. I know getting hold of anybody from any Citizens Advice anywhere is like gold dust. So we do appreciate it. And as we've said over and over, if you've got a question that comes up, please just contact Citizens Advice. Debbie had the contact details in her slides as well, so please, and if you need any help with getting in touch with them, contact us at Different Strokes. You'll find our email address and our phone number on our contact page on our website. The next webinar that is going to come up will be with myself and my fellow stroke survivor and colleague Janice on Wednesday, the 5th of June. And we'll be talking about lots of different things that makes life easier for us all when we're out and about. So things like the access card, sunflower lanyard, travel assistance, the CEA, sorry, I'll get that right, cinema card, so all things like that. And if you've found, because quite often it's word of mouth, somebody finds a gem and that we don't know about it, or it's not easy for us to find. So please, if you found a little gem that you think might help other stroke survivors or carers, please let us know. So you can let us know either by signing up for the webinar, and there'll be a space on the form to put it in, and we can, if you leave your contact details, we can get hold of you if we need more information about it, or email us again on our email address, info@differentstrokes.co.uk. So hopefully we'll see a lot of you again. Well, we won't see you, a lot of you again. You'll join us again. So once again, many thanks for joining us today. And please, before you switch off, we've got a short feedback form. We'd love you to fill it out to see how we've done today. And there's a section on there to come up with any other ideas that you think would be for topics. So good for topics. So thank you once again, and goodbye.